Today we're going to look at Arkham Horror Living Card Game, a deck building idea for the Survivor specialty in the game, specifically Rita Young. Here's the first set of cards that we're going to look at in this deck. Specifically, it's Rita Young, the Track Shoes, and Peter Sylvester, which is an ally in the game. Now, Rita Young, she has a pretty cool ability that triggers when you evade an enemy, and you can deal a damage to that enemy, or you can move to an extra connecting location. For this deck, it really works well to use the evasion ability to damage enemies, and also too, if you need to get somewhere quick in the game, using her ability to move to a connecting location is also fantastic. So understand that she has a 5 agility to start. If you give her a copy of the Track Shoes, that's going to increase her agility to 6. Peter Sylvester is going to give her a 7. So a 7 agility in this game, that's pretty high. You're going to be making all of your skill checks, the vast majority of the time. So it's a fantastic option. The other thing that we're going to look at is that Peter Sylvester will actually heal horror every turn. And that's kind of key to the next combo that we're going to set up. Rita Young has a 5 sanity for her character card. So one of the things that you can do is use in conjunction with her and Peter Sylvester is the Meat Cleaver weapon, which is focused in the center of the screen currently. What's great about this card is that you're going to get +1 attack. Her attack's okay. It starts at a 3. Her combat value's a 3 to start. But what you can do is you can give her horror and increase your damage output. And what's great about it is that it just says you may take a horror to use this ability. What's great though is Peter Sylvester can soak up the horror because it doesn't say that it's direct horror. So you can allocate that horror to him, and then at the end of the turn, he's going to heal that back. So you can kind of activate the Meat Cleaver as you will throughout the course of the game, and you're not going to really suffer any long-term ill effects. So it's a great combo to use. Peter Sylvester helps you evade enemies. Then when you need to fight, you can use his sanity to soak up some of the damage from activating the Meat Cleaver. It's a really great combination. Every deck needs some sort of investigation actions to perform. And for this deck, I chose putting 2 copies of the newspaper and 2 copies of winging it into the deck. The newspaper allows you to get a +2 investigation skill when you have no clues, and then it just drops off to 0 after that. A lot of the times when you're playing characters that are not necessarily allocated for investigations, they don't investigate a lot throughout the course of the game, so I think using the newspaper is just the right amount. And then the other thing that you can use is this winging it skill. And what's fantastic about it, you can recycle it kind of over and over again into your deck. So you can use it, maybe a couple extra times over the course of the game if you're drawing cards. So if you put 2 copies of each of these cards into your deck, that will help you with your investigation actions. A lot of the cards I really like playing with the Survivor have to deal with if you fail, you get something, or you can try again. So what I have focused on the screen right now are 3 cards that fit into that category. I recommend throwing 2 copies of Lucky into the deck, 2 copies of the Rabbit's Foot, and then 2 copies of Live and Learn. Both the cards on the end, Lucky and Live and Learn, those are fast effects. And if you fail a skill test for Lucky, you can get a +2 for that test. So let's say you fail by 1 or 2 points. You can throw this card down. It's a fast effect, and you don't lose an action for doing it, and you actually pass that skill check. On the right, we have Live and Learn, and it allows you to do that skill check again, which is a fantastic option. It's also fast, and the cost of it is 0. So that's a great card to throw in there. So if something goes crazy and you just didn't make that skill check, you can do it again. And then in the center is the Rabbit's Foot, and I really enjoy playing this card in a lot of the Survivor decks, if not all of them. Anytime you do fail a skill test, you get to draw a card. So, if something doesn't go quite right, you're still getting something out of it, and that's a cool mechanic, and that's a reason why I really like the Survivor aspect. Let's move on to tricks. Something that's cool about Rita Young, it allows you to put trick cards in from any class in the game. So in this case, we're going to put in 2 copies of the following cards, Cheap Shot and Slip Away. Cheap Shot is a great card, and it has some synergies with Rita Young's ability to do damage and evade and whatnot. So what this card is going to do is it's a fight action, but you're going to use Rita Young's agility, which is a 5. So that's a great way to get a big boost to an attack. And then if you succeed by 2 or more, you evade the enemy that you attacked. So think of it this way. You attack an enemy, you get to use her agility. Then if you do successfully hit, it allows you then to automatically evade the enemy, which then triggers Rita Young's ability to hit the enemy for a point of damage or move away. So you could do a lot of cool stuff with Cheap Shot, in particular with Rita Young's special ability. It's a fun thing to do. So nail something, give it a point of damage, evade it, move away. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there. There's a lot of options. The next one is Slip Away. This is a great card if you want to keep an enemy locked down for a couple turns so you evade it. And then on its next ready phase, it doesn't actually ready, so it skips it. So think of it as you're almost like stunning it twice. This is a great card to put into the deck for Rita Young. It just kind of adds to that flavor and that feel to the deck that you're evading things and you're kind of locking it down. It's really fun to play. One of the themes you've seen time and time again in this deck build, this deck construction, is that Rita Young has a great, fantastic capacity to evade enemies. So the next card that we're going to put in are 2 copies of Waylay. This is a fantastic card that allows you to just slaughter and destroy an enemy if it's been evaded. So obviously Rita Young, it's pretty easy to evade things with her 5 agility, and then you throw in the track shoes and Peter Sylvester, you have a 7, so you're going to be evading a lot of enemies. What's great about this card, it costs 3, is that you can do this card, and if you succeed, the enemy is defeated no matter how much life it has remaining. Now this is for non-elites, but there's a lot of stuff in Arkham Horror which has 3, 4, 5 wounds and they're non-elite, and they can present a big problem to you in the game. This card allows you to almost like auto kill or insta kill some of these larger enemies, so I highly recommend putting 2 copies of this card into the deck, especially with Rita Young's high agility value. 2 copies of Not Without a Fight is a great sort of generic card to put into your deck. It is a skill check option that you can use, and note that it has 3 different icons on it. It's very universal. The other thing cool about it is that if Rita Young is really in a bad situation, let's say you have 2 or 3 enemies on you, they're all engaged with you, this card actually stacks and builds with each one of those enemies on you. You can do some crazy, amazing things, especially later in the game, by using just a couple of copies of this. If you're seriously outnumbered and you're outgunned, you play this card down and it gets you out of a lot of jams. It's also very universal. You can, throw it for all sorts of different skill checks and whatnot. So it's a fantastic way to stay alive, especially later in the campaigns when you're literally outnumbered and overwhelmed. The last 6 cards in the deck are going to be just these general, generic cards. So 2 copies of Guts. You're going to have 2 copies of Unexpected Courage, and then 2 copies of the Emergency Cache. And these are just very universal cards, especially the Unexpected Courage and Emergency Cache. They pretty much go in every deck build that I put together. To summarize, the Rita Young deck that I've just shown you is a really fun deck to play, especially if you like agility, especially if you like playing those trick cards and kind of locking down enemies by evading them, doing some damage on the run, using the Meat Cleaver in conjunction with Peter Sylvester and the Track Shoes, and then using other cards like Waylay. These are fantastic and fun ways to really get yourself into the game. I want to thank you, as always, for spending your time with me, and have fun gaming.